What are the odds that two ambulances will go by, fire trucks?
I think the chair's making a little bit of squeaking noise, so just be careful. All right. Good afternoon. It's Thursday, August 21st,
17th.
17th. Here we go. We thought it'd be good just to catch up with some of you guys out there. There's been a lot of questions, and we're just going to have a kind of a conversational style here with some samples here and talk a little bit about who we are and what we're up to and what's coming up on the calendar and what else you want to talk about, Nick? So,
Yeah, we'll sample some bourbons. And
what are we drinking here? We got, we're going to just start pouring. This is Barrel 83, 295.
I'm going to go with Barrel 85. This is our cast strength. The high wheat.
Nick's a little more of a man than I am today. So, Nick, I don't know how long we've been at it, but let's maybe give the audience a little of a background and we start with how we met.
I interviewed with you a long time ago. It's almost 20 years ago now.
What year was that?
2004. Yeah, so 19 years ago. Started off as a project manager with a developer downtown, Jim Avdale. And we've been building ever since and creating cool stuff. And
what was your first impression of me when you first saw me? Truth.
You seem like a good guy. It was
Little did you know.
simple as it gets. Yeah. You look like you were looking for somebody that kind of, you could work with, but that you could just be, you have a good time with and kind of grow together in the industry. So.
Yeah, to put context around that, Nick and I started out as builders, developer in DC, and I think the first year that I worked there, we were doing about $3 million a year in construction. I think when you and I left there, we were doing close to 200 million.
Yeah.
So we were way over our skis, managing large projects, a fair amount of stress, long hours. A lot of stories that go back there. Holy smokes! But we learned a lot, and we're grateful for the opportunity. And I think, at least from my perspective, we got kind of burnt out on when you get to that level, you're managing more of the risk and not the love of building. And I think we saw that the risk profile those developers take is pretty astounding. I think the last job we were on was $15,000 a day in interest penalty or something crazy like that. So when the stakes are that high, it puts a lot of pressure on everybody, from the developer on down to the electricians and stuff. So I know I got burnt out, but I never lost my love of building, and I think that's maybe where we have a pretty strong connection. What says you?
Yeah, I mean, we were doing really cool stuff and cool projects, but it was to the point where we were sitting in meetings all day, and you don't get to get out there and kind of do what you love, swing some hammers, and actually kind of create. And after a couple of years of that, it was, it's just enough to, make
Get
you
jaded.
Yeah, like get jaded. So
You hate everybody in the world to drive home and take it out on your family. It's a tough game most developers are playing.
Yeah.
Certainly in the multifamily world. So,
not to mention it was 2007 going into 2008.
So I left in 2008 at the height of the crisis to start Greenspur. And my goal was just to go back to boutique projects and get back into the love of building and design and that stuff. So I left in 2008, which was terrible timing. Nick, you were foolish enough or whatever to follow me shortly thereafter, and we started that in 2008, and we had a couple projects. We took out some loans, rolled the dice. We had great friends and family that helped us.
We had pregnant wives. That was a ballsy move.
Yeah, my wife reminds me of that often. I remember the night I left decided to go off on my own. I took 4 NyQuils to sleep because I was so stressed, and I didn't sleep a week that night because I had a pregnant wife. It's 2008, leaving a pretty good job. Yeah, it was stressful, but we started it. We got lucky with a few clients. We did some jobs that we probably would never do now. We scrapped. We did some of the underpinning jobs and late nights and water leaks. I don't. And part of that is what built us and gave us a good character. But man, I wouldn't wish those days back. But we did some amazing stuff, and we brought on Zach. Probably 6 years down the line.
Yeah, something like that. I can't remember. All the years kind of run together at this point, how long we've been doing this. But yeah, it was a couple years after.
Well, we were bitter because we would do jobs with really good architects, and they were good architects, but they wouldn't show up much until the ribbon cutting and take credit for a lot of stuff that we were doing on the field. So we thought, shit, we can do this design stuff as good as anybody. So Zach came along as a young whippersnapper, and we made him swing a hammer for a year. We've never looked back since then. Zach's been a huge asset, but he started out the low rungs of the company, and now he's, I would argue, one of the better architects I've ever worked with, and I'm grateful to have him. But so we were at Greenspur, swinging hammers, designing stuff, done some really cool projects. We had great clients, still do. But what was about 5 years ago, we woke up and thought, well, I don't even know how this started. What, do you have a version of your story?
Well, I think it all started with the acquiring the property up there. First, the one over on Carrington.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we had 10 acres over there, and it was a cool kind of project. You kind of do your vision of the passive house, and then, I think that was only 10 acres, and we were kind of itching for some more land, and bought that piece of property overlooking Lost Mountain. That kind of where we decided the club aspect was something to behold, and kind of grew from there. And that was 2016, so more than 5 years ago. But kind of started from that point, and thought what better thing than to, gather around than a good bottle of bourbon and a great meal. And I think this whole thing was going around that.
Yeah, I think a light bulb went off in my head when I go up there with family or friends, and a place that we built and designed, and we would just have magical weekends or long dinners. And I was like, man, this is truly what it's all about. I know that's cliche to say, but being closer to landscape, good architecture, with good foods and friends and family. Like, I loved it, and I think other people did too. And it's not a hard scratch to scratch, because I think people are increasingly aware of why they need that. And frankly, there's so much input of data and just crap in our lives of input that we're like craving that analog experience. And I think that's what we were trying to get at. So when we built One Nest, I think it's the number 2 Airbnb, or maybe number 1 Washingtonian in the area. We sold the property since then, but we saw that there was a deep demand for it. And as an architecture / building design group, we are only as good as our next project, and we're, frankly, a service business. So I think you and I got to thinking, why don't we add whiskey as part of it? And it'll be a commodity product that we can weave into our stuff that we know really well, and that is design and build. So to me, although not obvious, I think it was kind of a natural pivot. Felt right. But I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, and we drink bourbon. It's kind of what we always did when we got together, and we thought, hey, we could do something to kind of bring out to the world what we do, what we just naturally would do. We would, even before the Lost Whiskey Club, we would get together around a fire and share a bottle of bourbon. Our Christmas parties were always just giant bourbon exchanges. So luckily, we knew some good friends in the industry that either helped us out or took pity on us, or a little bit of both. But got us going in the beginning. And me, I kind of, when you have a good idea, I like to kind of run with it a little bit and really kind of made it a passion project the past couple of years to try to get it to where we're at now, and pretty proud of it. So
let's talk about that, because I think some of you may be interested in kind of how, and that's part of the reason why we started the company. I think we'll transition into maybe how, but you have a good friend, Rob Castle, who's pretty well known in the spirits world. Kind of took us under your wing. He was a college friend.
Yes, we went to Wheeling Jesuit together. This was back in the late 1900s. It's sad we're saying that. But we graduated together, and he went off to start a few distilleries up in the Pennsylvania, Philadelphia area, and I think one over in Scotland. But called him up and said, "Hey, Rob, you give us a hand here?" And he said, "Man, I would absolutely love to do it, and I think the idea is great." And so he came in, and we talked about mash bills and what we'd like to offer and what kind of speaks to us. And
so let's drill into that.
Yeah.
When we tasked Rob with what we wanted, I remember pretty distinctly we were pretty clear, and that is we want a bourbon that is good and easy to drink, doesn't have a lot of cheekiness to it or cuteness, no flavors added. We want, and I think we still do want, a very simple profile. So we said just keep it simple, and we want something that you're going to really enjoy. And I think Rob, to his credit, steered us towards a heavy wheat and a heavy rye, but keeping them both bourbons.
Mm-hmm.
We don't do much variations of that. We're doing some double barrel stuff we're talking about later, but the formula is pretty simple. We're going to offer a little spicy and smokier option. We're going to offer a sweeter, smoother option, and we're not going to. We're only going to do single barrel. We're going to do bottles that are somewhat unique in their size and shape. So we want. I think the intent is that we're celebrating the gathering of the idea of bourbon. So I don't know. I guess it depends on the drinker, but you can finish this bottle somewhat responsibly in a single evening, and you kind of. Do we have one that's got leather strap on?
Sure. Yeah, grab one right here.
Grab that bucket too. So this is some of the carnage from old bottles that we've drank here, but the idea is a simple, slim bottle that looks different on the shelf, and then each bottle has its own barrel number and story number. So we're equating stories with bottles, and that story comes from whoever consumes it. So we're hoping that this bottle's about our face. Wherever you do it, in a closet by yourself on a Friday night, or with your family or loved ones, on a mountain or a river somewhere, we want you to always remember, let's say 591 was pretty special, and it's a real thick piece of leather, and you stave it. And I have a set of keychains to this day that I shared with people that I love and respect, and I just think very fondly of it. So the value is not only in the quality of the spirits, but it's in the value of the experience. And I think that's maybe the most undervalued thing about whiskey and spirits is where and who and how it's enjoyed. And that's not exclusive to us, but we truly try to celebrate it with our branding and our storytelling. And I think, I think it resonates with people because, at the end of the day, I don't think there's any argument that your stories and what your tales are, true or false, are more important than anything material you can leave on this planet. But I know I'm getting more philosophical than I should. But what do you think, Nick?
No, I mean, I agree with everything you're saying. In terms of the actual whiskey, though, we wanted a simple but good whiskey, and I think the key to kind of what we do is the single barrel aspect. So, sure, you've had maybe a high rye before, but barrel 84 could be, has different nuances as opposed to barrel 88, say. And so every time we do a new barreling, we're trying to keep it within that same flavor profile, but there are differences, and that's what I think is cool about it. Every time you go in and crack a new bottle, it could be a different experience, and that's what I like about it. And as we've gone and done this longer, and we're getting better at what we do, the bourbon's getting better, it's getting older, and it's just kind of maturing as we are.
So, a couple things. How long you're the one that selects all the barrels? The bottles, everything. Every bottle that comes out of this facility has got Nick's hands on it. Literally, he's the guy that writes all the numbers, looks at each bottle, puts the leathers on them. It's I don't know how many bottles we're into now, but it's got to be 20,000.
Oh, we're well over that. We're close to 45,000. Yeah.
Way wrong.
Yeah.
I know a sensitive subject in the bourbon world, and there's a lot of back and forth, is the sourcing and non-sourcing, and I don't think there's a right or wrong way to do. We chose the sourcing method, and I don't think we apologize for it because we know our lane, and that is storytelling and brand building and building and architecture, and there's people that are better at just the raw distillate than we are, so we source our product. It may change in the future, but right now we have good relationships with some of the top sourcing companies in the world, and it's been proven successful for many other brands. And if you look at the history of whiskey, I think that there's a pretty strong argument to be made that most whiskey you drink is sourced in one way or the other, or has been traditionally. I know there's some that do still do mass production and boutique stuff, which is great in its own, but we knew that it would require giant capital investment. We didn't know what we were doing, and so for us, it's a way to ensure quality, a source, and help us focus on what we think we're good at in terms of the value proposition, and that is unique single barrel, and capturing that story of gathering and conversation and celebrating one another face to face.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot that goes into making a quality bourbon, and the distillate is obviously an important part, and it's the first part, but there's much more to it than that. We're barbecue guys, and we do barbecue competitions and pop-ups and catering and all that good stuff, and I equate it to like a chef. I mean, you're trying to start off with the best quality materials you can. Pitmaster's not out there raising cattle and slaughtering briskets. He's sourcing the finest, Wagyu prime briskets that he can to give himself the best shot he can that the end product is going to be something incredible. And you can give two chefs the same cut of beef, and you're going to get two wildly different products at the end, depending on skill and what they're aiming to do. And I think that's what we do here. We source from some of those big distilleries that a lot of people do, but I think at the end of the day, we have a unique product to Virginia with our climates up here and the way we age it and what we're looking for, and the flavor profile that we want to present to people might be different than some other distillery that maybe sources from the same space. So just because it starts off with similar raw distillate, the end product could be wildly different.
Yeah, and I would argue that the distilling process in general is strict chemistry. In bourbon, it's 3 products.
3 ingredients, and one of those is water. So
one is water. And there's people who've been doing it much longer and better than we have, and we tip our hat. And I think that people, if they're being honest with themselves in the bourbon they drink, you'd be surprised how much of that is being sourced or coming from different areas. So, and that's shouldn't be a knock. And I think it's starting to come around now. I think the trend is certainly changing with the perception of the sourcing, because a lot of people are almost pursuing source bourbon because they know that they're coming from really quality things. And I think that's shifted in the last, I would say, 2 or 3 years. But again, there's a choice we made, and we're not apologizing for it. We're not trying to cover it up. We're proud of the product we put out, and I think, given some of our recent success in public kind of tastings in Virginia and here on the East Coast, I think it's holding up very well. And that's the bottom line. I don't care if you drink White Claws or Jack Daniel's Neat. If you like it, you like it, and that should be the final purview if it's a good whiskey or not. Do you enjoy it? And I think people are finding that they do. I do.
Yeah, and we find at these tastings a lot of people are worried about offending us with putting water or ice or anything, and we're always the biggest proponents of however you like to drink your whiskey, that's how you like to drink your whiskey. And should apologize for that. We kind of have that mantra.
I think there's a lot of snooty assholes in the bourbon world, and we maybe were some of them, two of them here. But one of my pet peeves, frankly, is people going into the whiskey store and then posting online with their brand new watch and fancy car, the pick they got that week, and how it's a big circle jerk section. And to me, that's like the antithesis of what a good bottle of bourbon is. One, I think the picture should be with you with the friends enjoying it, whatever bottle it may be. It shouldn't be an ego thing that I got this bottle, I'm going to put it on my trophy shelf. And I think the Poppy Van Winkles of the world would probably agree with us in the sense that bourbon's meant to be drinking and not used as a status symbol that I got this and I'm going to post about it and I'm hot shit. So
well, I can confirm that from Julian himself. So we've had conversations about just that, and he was basically saying just that. So
tell us a quick version of that story. I'd say.
Yeah. Well, we were, again, like I said, we're barbecue guys, and we were in New York City doing a barbecue event for a fallen friend of ours. So the night before the event, we were having a chef's dinner just for all the pit masters, and I had brought up a couple of our cask strengths to give to a couple of the pit masters that have been influential in my life. And of course, we're sitting at the table, and I got the bottle of Lost there, and this guy comes up behind me and says to me, and my wife's sitting there, and says, "Hey boy, you gonna crack that bottle? You just go look at it." And I'm like, who is this asshole? So I turn around, and it's Julian Van Winkle himself. I said, holy shit. Being a little bit starstruck, my wife spoke up and said, "We'll crack the bottle right now if you sit down and drink with us." He said, "Well, let me go finish my dinner and I'll come back." And never thought I would see him again. But sure enough, he comes back 20 minutes later, maybe 30 minutes later. He's got a bottle of Pappy's. It's got 2 cups, plastic cups of ice, and he's got a lemon. And we sat there and we drank 15-year-old Pappy, a bottle of Lost, with lemon wedges and ice in plastic cups for 2 hours, talking about the bourbon world and the way things are going and what we were all about and what he was all about. And it was a really cool 2 hours. One I wasn't expecting, but 2 I'll never forget. And that was I have that leather on my keychain, so it's a proud moment for me.
Yeah,
and he was a really cool dude, most importantly.
Well, we applaud all the people in this business. It's a tough business, whether you be a big guy or a small guy, and it's most people that get into the bourbon whiskey things do it out of a kind of a love affair for similar reasons why we did it. So, so I think we want to catch you up a little bit on where we're at and what we're up to in terms of coming up this fall and events and stuff like that. It hasn't been all nailed down, but this is Barrel 69 Story 1 is something we're saving for.
Yes. I'm busy with there.
So we're just really grateful for the kind of the watershed reaction we've gotten from our bourbon. Recently, we just went to the Bourbon Expo in
Charlottesville,
yep. And there was 30 of the Virginia's finest there, and we got voted number 1 there by the crowd, and we were very grateful for that. Nick and I came in late, disheveled, and back in a pickup truck, and didn't think much of the event, but we had a standing room only at our tent. And, I think people appreciated the passion that both he and I share about the brand and what we're about. So we're grateful for that. It's doing really well in stores. ABC's just released Cask Strength, which is the black label. We're excited about that product because it's straight out of the barrel like God intended. It's not filtered. It's strong. It's 125, 124 proof, depending on which barrel it is. But that's a cold winter night, special occasion, black label that we're just proud of, and it's in all the most ABC stores now, right?
Yeah, so I think there's 400 total ABC stores. I think we're in half of them with these, and that was they put them in there. The stores they consider whiskey stores. We don't have control over which stores they go into. However, you all do. If you're at your ABC store and you don't see it there, ask for it. They'll be more than happy to have a case shipped down there and carry it for us. That's kind of the way we do it, is spread by word of mouth.
And we're going to be in Richmond
September 9th.
There's
Saturday.
another expo. So September 9th in Richmond will be there. Same kind of gig with all the other distillers. We're excited to see her. Richmond is a very strong market for us. You folks in Richmond like your bourbon, which we appreciate. So we look forward to coming down there. We've got a couple other events here around. We're trying to get some stuff with the barbecue group and ZZQ in Richmond. We got Nick just did an event on the wharf. They're wanting to have us back. So we got some good stuff coming up this fall that we're excited about.
Be in Middleburg for a couple events.
Yeah, we'll be back in Middleburg for Christmas and what is it? Christmas, what do they call it?
Christmas in Middleburg, their kickoff. So it's
That's
the first weekend of December.
Super cool event.
yeah.
If you guys ever been to Christmas in Middleburg, it's horses and hounds and parades and kind of the old vintage horse and hunt country of Virginia. It's very classic, like a freaking Hallmark movie. So we're going to be there with Airstream and barbecue and the good folks at Fox Inn.
Red Fox Inn, yeah.
Red Fox Inn.
Matilda and her crew is top notch.
So Red Fox, as you all know, is a pretty famous place. Kennedy's and everyone went to it. So we're grateful to be part of the Red Fox. We're hoping to release, we only have about 12 barrels of it, but it's a special double barrel product that's been pushing 10 years.
April 2014. So yeah, it's just about there.
So we're going to release, hopefully, knock on wood, one of those this fall. It's going to have a special label. Our first double barrel 10-year-old product that we're going to release. Be very limited, but we're excited about that. It'll probably just be released to friends and family. You can purchase it here on a lottery basis. So we're excited about that. We're expanding a little bit into the markets. We opened up in New York last year. We're in Delaware, Maryland,
Virginia,
DC,
Wyoming.
in Wyoming. Yeah, that's where I'm from. So if you ever find yourself in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, we are Pearl Street Market and Jackson Hole Liquor. It's doing well out there. We just released a full feature or a feature film called Father Nature. It's in a film festival, fly fishing film festival. It's doing really well. It's around the country. I encourage you guys to go see it. We can post a link on our website, but it's about my father, and obviously it's a biased depiction of him, but his world of conservation. My dad loves bourbon and fly fishing and things, and all things outdoors. So it's a pretty neat film that Love Affair out of Richmond did with Hilton Graham. It's getting many accolades, so we're excited about that storytelling portion of it, and we're doing more stuff as we speak that we'll release later this year. But this is just a chance to reconnect with you guys. We'll try to do this more. We're really grateful for how organic, we're a small outfit. We don't have the money to compete with the big boys, but so we have to win on creativity and genuine chutzpah. So I feel like I'm grateful for Nick and the brand he's built here, and Zach for his help doing a lot of the behind the scenes marketing and design. I think it's hitting a nerve with people. I don't know what you think, Nick, and you've been to a lot of these events and talked to thousands of folks. Maybe you can get your perspective on people's reaction, good, bad, or ugly.
Well, I almost knock on wood. You hate to jinx it, but sort of everywhere we've gone, we've done events, and it's every time somebody comes up and says, "Man, this is not what I was expecting, and this is really cool," and I can't believe that, this hasn't been done yet, or they haven't experienced it yet, and that really kind of tickles me every time, because it's like, a lot of people just don't even know that they're missing it until they experience it, and you're like, "Wow, man, this is what I've been missing," and it strikes a nerve with them. You can kind of see when they really buy into what we're doing, and it clicks with them, and you're like, "This is freaking awesome." So it's as simple as that. The bourbon's good, but I think the message is even better. So that's
one of the gratifications I get is people will send us a picture or a note that's truly genuine. Hey, man, I gave this bottle out for a birthday or for Christmas or for someone's retirement, and we sat there and we drank, we talked about old stories, and I have that leather on my keychain. I'll never forget that moment. And so many of the other things we consume in society is very ethereal, and it kind of goes away and it vanishes. But memory and storytelling and time with others, and just this little token of leathers is like only leather can do. It patinas over time. It sticks with you. It ages well. I think we're the only bourbon company, I think, without a doubt, in the world that has leather on every bottle and it's hand stamped with its personal story number. So I don't think you can discount the value that people are putting into that experience, and not just us, but we just happen to be tapping into it. But you think about craft beer right now, and you think about people's willingness to go back to nature and good food and gosh, anything craft. It seems like people are really craving right now, and I don't think there's no mystery that there's a why people are doing that. There's so much crap right now that we're dealing with. So, can whiskey save the world? No, but it's a good place to start, in my opinion, and it really does encourage kinship, friendship, conversation, storytelling, true or false. And that simple act of just calling someone up and saying, let's go down and have a glass of bourbon, I don't know. It's something that's truly American. Bourbon's only an American product. I think we're extremely proud of America and the heritage and the kind of the story of America. And I think you with your military background and me, just as my dad in political office, I feel like America is often overlooked sometimes in the storytelling. And I think we can certainly have done better in certain respects, but I think that conversation and engagement is bourbon is it's an American idea. I don't know. We're proud of it.
Absolutely. Last Thursday, just to share a quick story, delivered a few bottles to a young lady who was going to take them. Her nephew is graduating from BUDS, which is Navy SEAL school. And so it's, as an ex-Marine, it took me back. And so this kid's going to get his Trident and then have a glass of lost whiskey. And that is one of the top warriors that we have on this planet. So I'm really proud of that fact, and the fact that they thought enough of our whiskey to make that an occasion. Really blew my mind. And we get stories like that quite a bit, and that's how we know we're really striking a nerve with people and making this bourbon like part of really key events of their lives. I mean, that kid's never going to forget the day he graduates and becomes a Navy SEAL. I promise you that. So I'm really hoping they send me pictures of that event. That would be really cool to share.
Yeah, we encourage you guys because that's the biggest payback we have. Is you buying in the brand, understanding it, and kind of sharing your stories. There's a whole thing on our website if you go to. We just launched a new website this week or this month, so we encourage you to go to that. But you can see everyone's stories. Some of them are ours, obviously. Many of them are your guys' story, and these aren't contrived marketing schemes. These are real bottles that were drank with real people and graduations and retirements and bud teams. So, you can't put a price on that from a marketing perspective, and you can't get a price on that just on how we enjoy seeing those stories. So keep those coming. We're getting into good bourbon drinking weather. Hunting season's about to start. We got colder weather hopefully moving in here soon. I think Virginia, a shout out to Virginia in general. We got some really good spirits in this state. Whiskey was first made in Virginia. So we have a proud heritage to live up to. I know that Kentucky and Tennessee like to claim the top pedestal, but I don't think Virginia has anything to be ashamed of. George Washington, as we know, was one of the top distillers when he died, and our property, Lost Whiskey, is named after the mountain that he bought and was going to retire on. So the property we have in Delaplane looks out over Lost Mountain, and that's a property that George Washington picked. Of all the property he could have picked in the whole East Coast, he picked this property, and we look down on it, which is special. So shout out to Virginia. Shout out to everyone that has kind of intertwined their lives with our brand, and we hope that continues. And we look forward to seeing you guys out at these events sometime this fall. So, heck, anything else?
That's it. Thanks for supporting us, and hope to see you out there, and cheers.
Yeah. Take care, boys, girls. wife's gonna hate that one. She hates my calls. It's wonderful.
Not too bad, man. That's a good bourbon. You would think drinking cask on a 90-degree day.